The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, tucked between two bills, and it was the kind of letter that would change everything, though Godwin Okafor didn't know that yet as he stood barefoot on his porch, watching his 6-year-old daughter point down the sunlit street with a mischievous grin stretched across her face. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet magic of everyday people, take a moment right now to like this video, drop a comment, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe to Whispering Tale Stories so you never miss what happens next. Godwin had built a wall around his heart 3 years ago, the day his wife had passed from a fever that no hospital in Lagos could break in time. Since then, his days had folded into a predictable rhythm. Wake before dawn, prepare breakfast for Zuri, drop her at school, return to his small tailoring shop on Adeniran Street, and come home each evening too exhausted to feel anything but the dull ache of loneliness. He told himself he was content. He told himself a man with a daughter to raise had no business chasing, feelings that only led to more grief. But children see what adults refuse to admit, and Zuri had been watching her father for weeks now, studying the way his shoulders straightened whenever a particular figure in a blue and white uniform came walking up their gravel path. "Daddy, the mail lady always smiles at you," Zuri giggled that morning, hopping from one foot to the other with the kind of delighted certainty only a child possesses. "And you smile back. Every single day," I counted. Godwin felt heat rush to his cheeks, the kind of embarrassment he hadn't experienced since he was a teenager, caught staring at a girl in church. He opened his mouth to deny it, to tell his daughter she was imagining things, but the words dissolved on his tongue because she was right, and they both knew it. Ifeoma. Idaobi had been delivering mail to their quiet neighborhood for nearly 8 months, ever since the previous postman retired, and from the very first week there had been something about her presence that softened the hardened edges of Godwin's grief. She had a laugh that carried down the street like music, and she always paused at his gate a few seconds longer than she did at any other house, asking about Zuri's schoolwork or complimenting the neatly pressed shirts hanging in his shop window, shirts he had sewn himself late into the night. But Godwin was a proud man, and pride, he had learned, could be a prison disguised as protection. He was the son of a poor farmer from Ogun State who had clawed his way into Lagos with nothing but a sewing machine and a dream. And though his tailoring business had grown steady over the years, he still carried the quiet shame of a man who felt he had little to offer a woman as bright and warm as Ifeoma. He didn't know that pride was about to cost him something far more precious than money. That afternoon, as the sun hung high and gold over the rooftops, Zuri decided she had waited long, enough for the adults in her life to catch up to what her heart already understood, while her father stitched a hymn in the back room of his shop, humming absently to the radio. Zuri slipped out to the small wooden table by the front window where he kept his writing paper for customer orders. With her tongue poking out in concentration, she wrote a letter in her careful, uneven 6-year-old handwriting, folded it 3 times the way she'd seen her father fold receipts, and tucked it into an old envelope she found in his drawer. The letter said simply, "Dear mail lady, my daddy likes your smile. He is sad since my mommy went to heaven, but you make him smile like the sun came back. Please come for tea on Saturday. From Zuri, age 6. She sealed it, pressed a crooked heart sticker onto the front, and the next morning, when Ifeoma came walking up the gravel path with her canvas, bag slung over her shoulder, and the same warm smile she always wore, Zuri was waiting at the gate instead of her father. Her small hands trembled slightly as she held out the envelope, her wide brown eyes serious in a way that made Ifeoma kneel down immediately, sensing the weight behind the gesture. Ifeoma read the letter standing right there on the path, and something in her chest tightened and lifted all at once. She had noticed Godwin, too, of course she had. She had noticed the tired kindness in his eyes, the way he always thanked her twice for every delivery, the careful way he spoke about his late wife with a tenderness that told her exactly what kind of man he was. She had told herself many times that a widowed father with a young daughter didn't need a stranger complicating his careful, guarded life. She had her own past, too, her own reasons for walking these streets alone each day rather than settling into the comfort other women her age had already found. Grief she understood better than most. Had a way of making people build walls so high they forgot sunlight could still reach them. She looked at Zuri, at the hopeful, unguarded face of a child who had lost her mother and was now brave enough to reach for happiness. On behalf of her father, and Ifeoma felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She asked Zuri gently if her father knew about this letter, and Zuri shook her head with a mischievous grin that mirrored the one from that very morning, whispering that it was supposed to be a secret surprise. When Saturday arrived, Godwin stepped out onto his porch expecting an ordinary weekend morning, only to find his small dining table dragged outside beneath the mango tree, covered with a cloth Zuri had clearly borrowed from the kitchen. 2 mismatched cups set carefully at either end, and his daughter standing proudly beside it in her best dress, informing him that they were having a guest for tea. Before he could ask a single question, Ifeoma appeared at the gate, dressed not in her uniform but in a simple yellow blouse that caught the morning light, holding a small paper bag of roasted plantain chips as though she, too, understood the importance of the moment unfolding before them. Godwin stood frozen for a long moment, his heart hammering with a confusion of embarrassment, disbelief, and something warmer underneath it all, something he had buried so deep he'd almost forgotten its name. Ifeoma smiled that same smile she always gave him. But there was a new softness in it now, an openness that told him this was no longer just a delivery stop on her route. Zuri looked between the 2 adults, with the enormous satisfaction of a child who has successfully executed a plan far beyond her years, and gestured grandly toward the empty chair as if she were a tiny matchmaker presiding over her greatest achievement. They sat beneath the mango tree for nearly 2 hours that Saturday morning, talking about everything and nothing, about Ifeoma's dream of one day opening a small bookshop, about Godwin's late nights hunched over fabric trying to build a future for his daughter, about a Daisy whom Ifeoma asked about, with such genuine gentleness that Godwin found himself speaking of his late wife's memory not with heaviness, but with a strange, healing lightness he hadn't felt in years. Zuri sat between them, swinging her legs happily, occasionally sneaking plantain chips and beaming as though she already knew, in the wise and simple way children often do, that something beautiful had just been given room to grow. In the weeks that followed, Ifeoma's mail route somehow always seemed to bring her past their gate a little longer, a little more often, and the neighbors began to whisper, with quiet delight, about the tailor and the mail lady who had found each other because of a 6-year-old's crooked handwriting and a heart sticker pressed onto an envelope. Godwin's shop grew brighter, his stitches steadier, his laughter easier, and Zuri watched it all unfold with the deep, satisfied joy of a child who understood that love sometimes simply needs someone brave enough to open the gate. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who still believes love can find its way back into a broken heart. Before you go, comment the word sunlight. If you believe children often see the love adults are too afraid to reach for. By the time the rainy season arrived, Ifeoma's visits were no longer marked on any postal schedule, and the small house on the gravel path had learned to laugh again, filled with the quiet, steady warmth of a family stitched together not by fate alone, but by the fearless, hopeful heart of a little girl who simply refused to let her father's sunshine walk away.